our security. Replenishing and repairing can also replenish our spirit, something we might need right now. The Old Testament tells us, do not forget to entertain strangers. For by doing so, some people have entertained angels without knowing it. Let's all look forward to the day when we can welcome old and new friends into our homes again.
Amen.
Yes, amen.
All right. Pledge. I pledge allegiance
allegiance
to the
the
flag
flag
of the
United States of
States
America and to the republic
to the republic
for which it stands,
stands
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
If you got
Thank you so much, Jackie. Yeah.
Oh,
And we got dogs barking.
good.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters, and we have a guest this morning, Chris.
great.
Good morning, Chris. I do remember he was at one of the Toastmaster clubs I visited on Monday from Texas. So, Chris, can you tell us where you're from?
Good morning to you all, and a very good afternoon from here in London, fellow Toastmasters. Very nice to meet you all.
London. I love it.
Well, we appreciate you coming out today.
What part of London, Chris?
Acton.
I used to live in, oh, dear me. I used to live off Finchley Road, 30 Greencroft Gardens. That was in, oh dear, I forgot the name of the neighborhood. Oh, I was not far from St. John's Wood and all that.
Very nice, very nice. Excellent. Thank you for the invite, Eric. Really excited to be here.
We appreciate you joining us this morning all the way from London. Thank you so much. Are there any announcements? I know next week is our open house. Details will be available quick as soon as we can. And also tonight's our social hour, and I'll bring it up again later on. If there's not any other further announcements, I'll turn things over to our Toastmaster. Stepping in for Larry Eggert is Dave Licata. Dave, the floor is yours.
Stepping in for who? What? No. Larry was good enough to call me last night. It seems that he forgot that the town of Tonawanda and the village of Snyder in Amherst, we're going to rededicate Eggert Road, and somebody from the family has to be there, and he got the short stick. But of all the speakers this morning at the rededication of Eggert Road, I'm sure that he'll do us proud as a Toastmaster. But I'm going to keep the theme, and the theme is home remodeling. And that reminds me of the arduous adventure we went on a couple years ago, my wife, myself, my two sons, and we decided to remodel the kitchen. And I kept notes on my ancient iPad. Well, now it's ancient. It wasn't that ancient when they were remodeling the kitchen. But just one note to kick things off, and it's a brief note. 50 days without a kitchen. That's how messed up this thing got. So people that take on kitchen and bath, I salute you, because it's just so much fun being down on one knee and washing the dishes in the bathtub. All right, let's get on with it. Our word master, Thomas Heldwine. What's the word, Tom?
Unmuted. Well, today's word of the day is upkeep. It's a noun, and it can mean either maintenance or a financial support for something. The upkeep of my home can be expensive. Mr. Toastmaster. Oh, I'm supposed to describe my role.
Oh,
I'll be keeping track of the use of the word and coming back with a report at the end of the meeting.
That's terrific. Thank you, Thomas.
Okay.
And what a nice, easy world this would be without upkeep, but incredibly, it's very important. So please remember that AM Lockport, if you're called on for table topics, we ask you to use the word of the day, and today's word is upkeep. Our I Master, there's an opening for I Master. Did we fill in? Did somebody come forward to be I Master?
I did, Dave.
And I heard a voice, but I didn't see a face.
We got Jen.
Jen, thank you so much. Jen Zapla has jumped in. She's going to be our I Master. Jen, please explain your duties.
Yes, Dave, I will be counting your ums, ahs, and filler words today and keeping track and reporting at the end of the meeting because speaking is done best without the use of these fillers.
Thank you so much, Jen, and such a precise explanation. I appreciate that. Now I need a grammarian too. Oh yeah, I do. Hey, do you want to,
Marty is your grammarian.
Well, he's also doing quote master, so maybe
Oh,
somebody.
so he's doing both? All right, Marty, starting off with the explanation of grammarian and followed by your quote. I want it in that order because you know how strict I am. Go ahead. Marty Johnson. He was here a minute ago.
Marty has left the building.
All right, we'll just come back when we see Marty. Oh, you had the joke? No, you're the timer. We don't have a jester. Chris, do you have any Monty Python type humor from London for us? Maybe a joke?
I have a really bad joke.
Oh, go ahead.
What am I letting myself in for? All right. Somebody stole my Microsoft Office account. When I find out who you are, you're going to pay. You have my word.
Oh, I got it. Thank you very much,
You have
Chris.
my
Hey,
word.
give it up, Chris. Jumped in.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. But Chris, that doesn't mean we're going to let you off the hook for table topics just because you were a hero. That's all right. All right.
I have a quick one too, Mr. Licata.
Oh, you have a quick joke? Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead, sir.
The other day I was in Home Depot and I was walking down the gadget aisle and I happened to see Dave Licata, and all of a sudden all the stud finders started going berserk. Ta-da.
Thank you so
That was
much.
it. I told you it was a bad joke.
And I'd like to thank you for bringing back those memories of long ago. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Well, the most important thing at a Toastmasters meeting is timer, because I have to assure people that I'm recruiting to join Toastmasters that everything is indeed, it's timed. And our timer this morning is Len Thornton. So Len, take us through the parameters of timing. Thank you.
Right you are, David. Timing is essential to a good Toastmaster. I will be timing anybody who speaks today, most notably the table topics. At 1:30, you will see the green background. At 1:45, the amber, actually bright yellow. Who am I kidding? And the red will come on at 2, and you have a 15-second buffer there. On the evaluations, the timing lights are at 2 minutes, 2:30, and 3. And I believe both of our speakers today are in the 5 to 7 category. So
Alrighty.
5, 6, and 7. I'll report after each segment of the meeting on the speakers' times and qualifications. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. And thank you for reminding me that we have 2 speakers. So between now and that moment, maybe we'll have someone that wants to reach in their hip pocket and find a speech, because we're always ready here. As we say back in the old country, sempre pronto. They have a gesture master this morning, and she's real good at gestures. We've seen it in the past. She's got the hang of it, even though she's a newer Toastmaster. Beth Banks. Beth, fill us in on what that job means.
I will be looking at your gestures. Sometimes it means hand movements, but sometimes we've noticed, especially on Zoom, it's maybe your eyebrows, maybe some kind of facial gesture that really shows what you're speaking about. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Beth. Now, we also like to prove that we've been listening at AM Lockport, because Toastmasters is about speaking, listening, and when you add speaking and listening, you get leadership. So it's important to listen. And we underline that because we borrowed this from another club years ago, and it's the job of Quizmaster. And our Quizmaster this morning is Tracy Farrell of Lakeview Parkway, Lockport, New York. Tracy, are you there?
I am here, Dave. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes. As you said, the job of Quizmaster is to enhance our listening skills. So I'm going to be listening intently to what everybody says today, as should you, because there will be a quiz at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Tracy, thank you so much. To our table topics master, we'd like to alert him to the fact that I haven't heard anybody say anything about a hip pocket speech. So don't be shy. Feel free to add a few table topics participants. We normally do 3. You can do 5 this time, or 6, or if you get on a good flow. The table topics master this morning is Samir Rahman, and we're looking forward to his opinions and his ideas and the bait he's going to use to get us to be speakers that are talented in the off the cuff speaking. Good morning, Samir.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so today I will hopefully come up with some good topics for people to speak extemporaneously upon for 1 to 3 minutes regarding both our theme and something that incorporates the word upkeep. Should I call on people now?
Sure.
Okay.
You're on, baby. It's your turn.
Let's see. How about Charlie Deacon? What's a home remodeling project that's gone either well or unexpectedly poorly, perhaps with an interesting anecdote that involved an accident of some sort? Charlie Deacon. Thanks.
Mr. Table Topics Master, I've had some times of keeping an upkeep of a house, especially when I lived in Lockport. I had to redo a bathroom, in fact, 2 bathrooms. And fortunately, one of my congregation was a plumber, so it helped. And I tore out, it was an upstairs bathroom. I tore it apart, and then I had to rebuild everything. In fact, I transferred where the sink was going to be, all that. And so I had to dig up the floor too. So it was trying to keep the upkeep there. And fortunately, the plumber helped me do this. And it took a while. And fortunately, we had a second bathroom, so we could use that for purposes. Of course, that one had a shower, and so we didn't have a tub there, so we could shower downstairs, and it was an interesting thing to do. And the other bathroom I did, but that was really the first process thing I did in that house. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Charlie. Chris, you're our guest today. I know in London they have perhaps less space than some of us are used to here. Do you have any interesting stories, either involving work that you've done or perhaps work that you've witnessed in a place that you've lived?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I've lived in London for 9 years, but originally I'm from another part of England. I'm from a city called Bristol, which is the largest city in the southwest of England. It's home to about 400,000 people. I moved to London in 2011. I've been here ever since, but I definitely grew up with a lot more space. And you're right, we're pretty packed in like sardines in this part of the world. But where I grew up, there was a little bit more space. My dad, back in probably about 2003, 2004, decided to repaint the hallway in his house. And my sister and I were really excited because we were flicking through the Dulux catalogue, and he'd chosen this really, really bright, garish red, which seemed quite out of character for him because he usually likes sort of calmer colours and a more less brash facade, I suppose, is the word I'm looking for when painting his walls and when it comes to his taste of interior design. So he thought that this red was basically a bit softer than it actually was. And my sister and I knew that it wasn't. And so we had said, oh, this is really exciting because we were kids at the time and we thought it was really cool that we were going to have our house painted in this incredibly vibrant, in your face color. Needless to say, painters came round when we were on holiday, actually. And so by the time we got back, we all saw it for the first time. And my sister and I went, yes, yes, brilliant. And my dad had the most horrified look on his face because he'd realized he'd made a big mistake. We didn't think he'd made a mistake, but he definitely did. In fact, so much so that just 1 week later, he had the whole thing repainted again, a really weird beigey salmony color, which is far more like him, but my sister and I thought was really rather tasteless compared. However, it did age better, and looking back now that I'm a touch older, I can see why he wanted to correct this mistake as soon as possible. So for the 1 week that our house was bright red, it was really, really very exciting indeed, but unfortunately, very short-lived. Thank you, Mr. Topicsmaster.
Thank you, Chris. Margot, you own a facility. I imagine there are times where upkeep has been a headache. What's a headache or perhaps a blessing in disguise that you have experienced in either your home or the winery?
Thank you, Mr. Topics Master. Actually, I have a little unusual story. Before I bought the winery, as most of you know, I lived in Barker in a home built in 1843. And when I had redone that home, I slowly but surely had brought it back to what I thought was an appropriate period. Well, when we sold that home to move here, the people who bought it were very into history, but they wanted to do it more revolutionary. They actually took stucco off the walls and brought back an indoor brick wall, did some really very odd things. Well, they have sold the house now to another family who happened to show up for a drink in the winery. Now, I had been sort of, I don't want to say stalking, but checking out the pictures online as they were trying to sell the house. So Candy and James, yes, there's another James living there now, have come to us with Lions Club, and they were curious about what we did with the house. So I sent her pictures of what was my kitchen before he destroyed it, my living room, whatever. So the next day, Candy shows up with at my door. Now, my dining room had been a very pale yellow with blue and yellow curtains and a blue stencil at the top. So Candy shows me a picture of how she did the dining room. It's laid out, the furniture is exactly where I put it. It has slate blue walls with yellow and blue curtains. I have found a soulmate in restoring this home. And now that I've shown her the pictures of where my kitchen was and given her the history on some of the things that happened there, she's very excited to keep going and getting excited about doing what she's doing there. So Mr. Table Topics Master, that's my story about the upkeep of my old home.
Thank you, Margot. That was great. Mark Campos, has upkeep kept you up late at night ever in a home you've had? Or perhaps, I keep hoping for a story that's a positive one. Maybe you have a positive instance of having to work on your home.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and our guests. Good morning. We were pretty fortunate. By definition, I'm not a particularly handy guy, just not really skilled. I didn't pay attention when my old man was doing work, so I pay for it now. We were lucky though, we built a new house, so there really wasn't a tremendous amount of upkeep, at least for a period of time. And then as the years passed, we would upgrade certain portions of our house, maybe one room here or there. And isn't it remarkable though, even just painting a room, how it can turn your entire house upside down, just a ripple effect through the whole house. But by far the most soul-sucking and bank account sucking project that we ever undertook was a kitchen renovation in 2019. And that one cost me an awful lot of money. I held my wife at bay for years to not do this project. And when I was finally cornered, it cost me. Thankfully, God bless him, my son-in-law, who is a very helpful and a very handy guy, took the lead and I helped him over a 4-month period. And it ended successfully, I have to say, but talk about disruptive. And it wasn't just a kitchen renovation. It was the first floor, the living room, the whole shot, new floors, just really, really expensive and time consuming. But I got a little bit wiser. You see, earlier this year, I finally treated myself to the man cave in my basement that I always wanted. And rather than call in favors from family or attempt to do it myself and probably screw it up royally, we subbed out certain pieces of it to contractors who did a really nice job. We kept some work in-house, did it ourselves, saved some money that way. And I have to say that end result, that was a very successful project. So there's a happy ending for you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you. I see we have a guest who joined, Julio. I don't know if you're ready for table topics, but if you'd like to, you could.
I'll brief him on the word.
Go ahead, Dave. Thanks.
Julio, welcome back, Julio. This is our friend Julio from Mexico. And the word for the day is upkeep. And we're talking, our theme today is home renovation. So it's upkeep and home renovation is the theme. Thank you, Julio.
Julio,
Want to ask him a question?
Hello,
sure.
everyone.
Julio, would you like to describe?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you have a good story about either working on your home or working on a home that was either positive or negative? We've heard a lot of negative ones. Maybe there are a few that are positive out there. Mark's was kind of positive. So go ahead and feel free to nod if you don't wish to.
Well, right now is a difficult time for us, for everyone. I think it's not a good time, I think, but the good points about this is that we continue still learning about good or positive points. Also, continue keeping it safe about for the family. So for me, it's important to help others, also to my family to grow as well, because I have 2 little daughters and also my wife, and I just want to give them positive points about their studies, also their they need to keep in mind about the possible things about these virtual studies, about continue growing in knowledge. So for me, it's important to keep it in peace. Also, I want to say you that thank you.
All right, thank you. Mopeless, I think you don't have a role.
Yes, he does.
Oh, does he? Okay. All right. He picked up a role. All right. I think that's everyone then. Everyone did a good job. Thank you, everyone, for participating in table topics. I believe at some point a voting screen will come up on your window.
Well, we have to check the word and the time.
Oh, yeah. Let's get a word master's report and the timer's report on that. Thanks, Dave, for the reminder.
You're welcome. Who do you want first, your word master or your timer?
Thomas, let's go ahead with you first since you're unmuted.
Thank you. The word of the day was upkeep. The exception for Chris and Julio, our guests, is automatic. They get an exception. And I'm happy to report that Charlie, Margot, and Mark all use the word of the day, upkeep. So they are doing a good job of upkeeping our tradition of using the word of the day in table topics. Everyone qualified. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Great.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Thomas. Len, how about the timer's report for table topics?
I'm pleased to report as well that everyone of our contestants today did indeed qualify. Charlie at 152, Chris Lloyd Davis at 159, Margot at 144, Mark Campos 158, and Julio Cesar Moreno at 205. Good job, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much for putting up the ballot. So please vote for Charlie, Chris, Margot Sue Bittner, or Mark Campus, and Julio. I assume because we're all electronic and digital now, and the voting goes so much quicker now that we're on Zoom, I would like to share with Chris that I finally remembered where I lived. I lived in Camden. Thank you. Oh, thank God for coffee. My goodness. We were lucky when we moved to London. We found a 4-bedroom apartment that had a living room, bath and a half, kitchen, and a breakfast nook. We were living large, Chris. So we made out. We stuffed 9 Americans in there. And Margot, thank you for your participation, but I wish you hadn't said revolution in front of our guest from England. All right, let's get on with the speaking. Our first evaluator this morning, evaluating our first speaker, which is Sylvia Baptiste, is our very own, hang on, folks. Yes, it's our very own president, Eric. Please tell us what we're going to look for today when Sylvia speaks. What parameters are we going to stay inside?
David, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guests, good morning. Sylvia is speaking from the Pathways program. Whoever's on, Master, there is one for you. She is speaking from the introduction to Toastmasters mentoring. Her purpose of this project is for the member to clearly define how Toastmasters envisions mentoring and also for the member to share some aspect of a previous experience as a protege. Mr. Timer, her time is 5 to 7 minutes, and Mr. Toastmaster, do you have her title?
No, sir, I don't, because I was fresh out of the box. I'm just a fill-in. Please be merciful. Go ahead. You have the title, Eric.
Yes, I do have the title. Fellow Toastmasters and
Well,
guests.
Sherry.
I'm sharing. Please help me welcome Sylvia Baptiste, mentor or protege? Which one are you? Sylvia Baptiste. You're on mute, Sylvia.
I did better being on mute, you know that. Mentor or protege, which one are you? Ask yourself which one I am. A mentor or a protege? This question is important for you to answer honestly. Am I a mentor or am I a protege? I have worked for a human service agency now for 30 years. I am not a counselor or a social worker. I work behind the scenes. Started with the front desk at 32 Cottage Street. And that was a very important position, in my opinion, because just like any business or organization, your first contact with customers are at the front desk. You are the face of the business. I moved into accounting, CFO, Human Resource Director, where I met all the new employees, talked about policy procedures, job descriptions, benefits, and of course, the one that everybody hates to do, releasing people from their duties. Interim director at the Early Childhood Center, working with 3 and 4-year-olds. That was a lot of fun. Parents, they're not much fun. Now grant compliance. Working with 6 outside agencies in Lockport with a grant funded by the Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance, also known as OTDA or OTDA. This grant is a solution, emergency solution to COVID, and the award is over $685,000 that these agencies will receive. But back to mentor or protege. Honestly, I feel I have always been a protege, and it isn't a bad thing. I don't think it is. You're probably saying 30 years of protege? Don't you have any ambition to move on? Well, the agency has revolved and changed their mission, not the mission, but has changed work to fit the community of Lockport and Eastern Niagara County. As you can see, I have many different jobs. We have gone from childcare to educational programs, definitely to crisis services. And 1 year ago, who ever heard of COVID-19? Now it is in our vocabulary. It has turned our lives upside down. My experience as a protege has introduced me to people in the community, educational sectors, and to Toastmasters, one of the most supportive membership organizations in Lockport. Toastmasters has many mentors, all different styles, and that is because we are all different. We need that variety. The longevity of the membership is the best thing that any organization could have. Yesterday, as I was writing this speech, waiting to the last minute, I know, the light has come on into me and it said, you have been a mentor. You are a mentor. I'm currently working with the child care director, helping her reach her long-term goals with our agency. And she has set a goal very high, way up there. She wants to make a difference in every family in Lockport. It's a big goal. And I could help her with that. I could guide her to talk to the right people in the community and with our agency. I can listen when she has some ideas that she needs to bounce off of somebody. I could teach her the finances, the background of this program. But I always have been a mentor. And as you know, as a parent, you are always a mentor from day one. You hope that you guided your child or children to the right directions to make good choices in life. You have watched them grow. You have experienced the good times and the bad times with them. And then there will be times that you feel, I may have failed. For example, your 6-year-old might have sprayed paint inside your neighbor's house over a long weekend break from school. Or the other child could have called the police to help him get out of a ditch New Year's Eve and get himself arrested for DWI. Only my 2 idiots would do that. But they are my 2 idiots. What could I say? Are you a mentor or a protege? Either one, you have done a service to yourself and you have provided and impact other people in your community. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. Now we're going to move on to our second speaker this morning. But first, I want to introduce her evaluator, a man that has come to us from all parts of the world, all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of engineering jobs, and now he makes his home in Niagara Falls. Mucklis Raymond. Mucklis, could you share with us the goals of our second speaker this morning?
Good morning, Mr. Topic Master or Toastmaster of the day. Indeed, upkeep keeps me awake all night because I have several projects in the going and nothing is getting towards the end. Yes, Ryan Floor was gracious enough to give me a feedback on his speech or information. Strategic relationships, level 4, 5 to 7 minutes. The title of his speech is Anchored in Reality. Goes very well with the upkeep. His goal is to take the audience through his company's public relations efforts during the COVID-19 pandemic and how to temper expectation while maximizing opportunity. The purpose of the project is to practice skills needed to effectively use public relations strategies and to have share some aspects of his public relations strategy. Again, as I said, it's 5 to 7 minutes, and Ryan was gracious enough to share this information proactively. And you have the title, Mr. Toastmaster?
No, I'm just filling in.
Okay,
So
anchored. Yeah, go ahead. Anchored, Ryan Floor, anchored in reality, Ryan Floor. Go ahead, 5 to 7 minutes.
Thank you, Mucklis.
A successful organization is the congruence between your advertising, your marketing, and your public relations strategies. See, public relations is what people think about your company. And as we all know, there's been something going on around the world the last couple of days that may or may not have had an influence on how companies can, should, and did react. COVID-19 is something that we've all come to know, love, and understand. And I think honestly, it needs a public relations manager because it's getting kind of a bad rap. Obviously, I'm kidding. That being said, it's changed a lot. And I think each of us could probably, in under just a couple of moments, rattle off a dozen reasons why their life is different since March. What our organization had to do and understand was that this was a completely life-altering and world-shaping event. And at the beginning, I don't think anyone wanted to admit that. You see, at the beginning, it was 14 days to flatten the curve. At the beginning, it was 2 weeks, and you'll be back in those seats. You see, a lot of times we go into a project with one understanding, and later on we have to adapt. There's a lot of things that can come very quickly. And while COVID-19 is an easy early example, if we look back to 2008 during the financial crisis, we can see another shining example. If we go back to the Y2K crisis, we have another. You see, every once in a while, there are these events around the world that, whether they have an impact as vast as COVID-19, or whether they're as inert as Y2K bug ended up being, we have to understand how to develop and adapt to them, and then how to relay that message to the public. I don't know about you, but I don't want that job. You see, the public is a very fickle creature. I have some experience in seeing and understanding the public relations side right now of school districts. And what I've noticed in their implementation of their public relations strategies is a lack of cohesiveness. Several messages get spread, and sometimes they're conflicting. And let's be honest, there's not a winning position there. What we need to understand is that each of these companies and organizations that are reacting to this have different perspectives. They also have different crowds that they're trying to please. It's hard to touch and cover all. And so what a lot of organizations have gone to is a passive or inactive public relations strategy. Let's maintain the focus on our brand, on our goals, and let's avoid even talking about the COVID-19 bug in general. Well, when it came time to figure out what our company was going to do, there was a lot of ideas that were floated. It's hard to determine just one that might make sense because the audience becomes so large. It's a national organization. But what our company decided to do was to focus on the needs of the individual, not as it relates to COVID-19, but as it relates to them on March 15th, as well as sometime in March of 2027, and how it did relate to them back in March of 1997. And as our company developed this public relations strategy and began to implement it, what we noticed is that when we got inquiries and when we started to sit down again with clients virtually or 10 feet apart in a public space, we started to notice that they were less likely to talk to us about COVID. We started to notice that they were less focused on what COVID had done to them, and instead were focused on how they had adapted themselves to COVID. And while that's a nuanced, slight alteration, it really brought about a more positive side, which was a fantastic thing to see. Because oftentimes we start to think in terms of one tunnel, of one approach, and we start to really get our views narrowed. And as we begin to really focus on one thing, negative or positive, it can be all consuming. You might not have depression, but everyone has had a moment of manic enthusiasm, and everyone's been in a depressed state where things aren't quite going their way. And really, the public relations is there to guide that focus and move and alter that mindset in order so that you relate to that company in a positive way. And just from my experience and interaction with clients thus far, between our email campaign, our letter campaign, and our mild online advertising campaigns, our clients have become less concerned with what's going on because of COVID and more focused on what they're doing. And watching that mentality shift, though small and slight and just based on our company, was a really great thing to see from the optimist in me. And I think, realistically speaking, while each campaign needs to be anchored in reality, sometimes it's important to just alter that reality.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
I am ill prepared to be your Toastmaster today.
No, I was waiting for you to say, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Oh, I decided to bow out. That's my bad. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All righty.
Actually, that was an
Thank you.
appropriate ending.
Yeah. Well, we're virtually shaking hands right now with the speaker. I would like a timer's report, Len, on our two speakers this morning. Thank you very much.
Mr. Toastmaster of the day, I am pleased to report once again that both of our contestants qualified, Sylvia at 5:39 and Ryan at 6:45.
Thank you very much, Mr. Timer. And now I invite you to look at your screen at the ballot and pick your best speaker of the day. Thank you. I want to share with you another note from my adventures when I was redoing our Nightmare Kitchen. They kept shipping us the wrong cabinets, which was a bit of a bummer because we started in October. I figured we'll be done by Christmas and I can host Christmas Day as I usually do. So this is a note that really sums things up. After 26 days of waiting for our damaged cabinets to be replaced, along with our oversized dishwasher to be swapped for a smaller model, the construction crew is back to work on our kitchen remodel. Hurrah! I gave a bold hurrah. Julio and Chris, when Muckless puts up his background, that's the mighty Niagara River, which isn't a river, it's a strait. It joins two bodies of water. It joins Lake Erie with Lake Ontario, and in between we have a little cascade that we like to call Niagara Falls. So Chris, Julio, I wish to say again to Julio, and for the first time to Chris, Lockport is 19 miles from Niagara Falls, and when you arrive here, you will get a guided tour beyond your dreams. And we'll throw in the history of the Erie Barge Canal too as a bonus. So don't be shy. If you head this way to see the falls, please look us up. Now let's move on to evaluations. Evaluating our first speaker this morning is our Chief Executive Officer, our leader this year, and my dear friend, Eric Snyder. Eric.
David, thank you very much. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, and especially to Sylvia. Sylvia, this morning, you're talking about your personal experience as a mentor and a protege. I see you as both a mentor and a protege, especially with your background working at the YWCA. You spoke so clearly that we listened to some of your experiences with being as a mentor. I remember hearing you say 30 years. That's fantastic of you doing something like that for a very long time, and I commend you for doing so. What I also learned is that I know I'm also a mentor too, but sometimes I have a balancing being a mentor or a protege. I can't describe myself which, but you really brought that into light, and I really appreciate you giving us your background of that. Now, I do have some suggestions, but your body gestures were okay because we can see through your facial expressions, head moving this way, trying to look at the camera, which was good, but I would like to see some more engaging, because you really did a good job, but we really need to see more pizzazz, so to speak. That's a good one for our grammarian. Pizzazz. So I would like for you as to see, like, maybe put your laptop on a platform, back it up a little bit, and stand and move, do some more body movements, like I'm bad at doing right now. But Larry's like, eh. But I would like to see more of that. You had good vocal variety, you had good eye contact, but a little bit more gestures. But you really engaged us in all of this morning, and I really do appreciate that. But overall, good job. I would like to see some more of that in your next speech. So thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Eric. And now back to the well-traveled and sometimes over-engineered, my dear friend Muckless. Your evaluation, please, Muckless.
I want to run, but I don't think I can run here. There's not much space. I think energy makes a lot of difference. And I think even in Zoom, I feel a little trapped, like most of us are. It's indeed a great pleasure to watch Ryan grow from a visitor. I think the first time he came as a guest, fortunately, I was at the Tom's Diner. I saw this very well-trained professional man walk in. I think Kate Banks may have been the inviter, right?
Yes.
Yep. So he has grown a lot, and he shows a lot of responsibility, a lot of poise, and he's always immaculately dressed. So, and today he even went one step further. Usually he has a normal background like now, but he had the public relations background. These things matter. As we know, the non-verbal communication is so important. I can go on forever, but as I said, I was very blessed to see him grow. And I'm sure he's got a lot more to go. His speech had so many positives, and there were rooms for improvement. And there were some suggestions and one suggestion is obviously a good opening. I think you came across with the background very well, but take a little pause and state what you're going to say in first 2 or 3 sentences, and then give the body. And please, you did an excellent conclusion for an expert Toastmaster. I could see your hand gesture. But as you are growing, maybe in conclusion, in summary, a word like that prepares the audience for your, finishing it off. Some voice variation, some energy, some more dynamic gesture, because you have to show energy invites people to you. Even though you're like a small square box in the screen, but the movements makes it more attractive. So I would say, except for the transitional pause, and some voice variation, you did a super job. Well prepared. You sent me the information ahead of time. And this is again a good exemplary Toastmaster. Kudos to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Muckless. And now I'd like to call back to our timer for indeed our final timing report of the morning, Len Thornton. Lenny. Oh.
Len, you're muted.
That's not possible.
Good one, Muckless.
Both of our speakers this morning, David, fell within their required parameters. Eric spoke for 2 minutes and 36 seconds, and Muklas at 2:57. So both qualified.
Lenny, thank you so much for being our timer this morning. Precise, excellent, great work with the background. And now I give you my royal permission to switch to that Halloween background. That's so cool. Thank you. So please vote for Eric or Muckless this morning. Oh, there we are. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. And in the spirit of home repair and home upkeep, I want to share my last note. This kitchen project started in October 2013. Here is my final note. This happened 2,392 days ago on March 29th, 2014. And at 11:16 p.m., I was finally happy to make the announcement that I actually ate breakfast in my own kitchen. So that was a real trip. And getting back to reflect on Mark Campos, what he said about the price, I bought my house for X, and 30 years later, I remodeled the kitchen for pretty close to what I paid for the house. But we have a little surprise this morning. He didn't want to be mentioned earlier because he was busy eating breakfast. I'm in Studio A here at 142 Allen Street, Zoom headquarters. And now we're going to go to Studio B, and we're going to check in with our general evaluator, Mike Licata. Mike, are you in Studio B?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guests this morning. I have to give everyone in our club a lot of credit. We do a great job stepping in, even at the 11th hour. So I want to give a lot of credit to our Toastmaster this morning. He did a great job stepping in for Larry. I think that the continuation of the theme was a good job. I know we all have home remodel stories, so it was a very broad topic and made things like table topics much easier. Our evaluators this morning are two of the more experienced evaluators. I think Moklis and Eric did a great job with the sandwich approach, which for our guests is when we present a lot of the things we liked about the speech. The meat of the evaluation was the criticism or some of the positive feedback, or more importantly, more of the feedback or ways they can improve the speech going forward, which is the meat of the sandwich. And then we always like to finish off with constructive positives towards the person's next speech. So I think both of our evaluators did that well this morning. And because I will ask or return the meeting back to our Toastmaster of the day, because I do not have the agenda in front of me. Thank you.
Michael, thank you so much for being a general evaluator. We appreciate it, and I'll be happy to call on reports. I'm going to do my best to save Wordmaster for last. The word is upkeep. Don't be shy. Squeeze it in one more time. So, Jen Zapla, how did we do with our hesitations, our pregnant pauses, our ahs and our ums? And remember, you are now the Wizard of Oz. Check in, Jen.
Thank you, Dave. I will be your Wizard of Oz today. I did hear quite a few ums and ahs, and although I am not as good as Edna, I do not think she would be proud of us today at counting our so's. We need her back to count our so's because I think we have too many. Samir, I heard several uhs. Charlie, I heard some some uhs, and some ands from you. Chris, I did hear a couple of so's. And Margot, I even caught you with a so today, if you can believe it. Mark, I heard so's, ands, and a but. And Julio, I heard some uhs and some so's from you. Thomas, a couple of uhs. Eric, so a couple of reallys, which seems to be your filler word of choice, and a but. Lena and Dave, I also heard some so's from you. I thought our speakers did quite well today during their speeches. I may have been more engaged during these and caught less filler words, but I thought they did an excellent job and I didn't catch any during the speeches. Thank you.
Jen, thank you so much. And I appreciate the fact that you reinforced and echoed Edna, because I'm pathetic. I don't even hear the so's. I don't hear my own so's. I don't hear the other speakers' so's, but it's very important to point out the so's because they do get tiresome, and I appreciate that. You never apologize when you're Toastmaster, but I lost track of who the grammarian is. Who's the grammarian?
Marty.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Marty Johnson, you're the grammarian.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I just wanted to briefly comment on the grammar for our participants this morning. David, I loved the phrase you had, a guided tour beyond your dreams. When you were talking with one of our most honored guests, you were talking about making sure that they'd receive a trip to a guided tour to Niagara Falls. I loved your verbiage there. Let's see. We have Ryan. When Ryan was speaking in his presentation, I like the phrase, a life-shaping event. Eric, I did catch more pizzazz you were using as a suggestion for Sylvia for her presentation. Muckleys, I like the phrase more dynamic gestures you were suggesting for Ryan. And at this point, we do have time. I have a quote, if I could share my quote.
Hey, we'll be happy. Stretch this out as much as you like.
I missed earlier. Okay, many of you have probably heard this, but it's definitely ties in with home maintenance and upkeep. The quote is, measure twice, cut once. Measure twice, cut once. And last but not least, a quote off the internet, living through a home renovation, a home remodeling is like living in the wild. You do whatever it takes to survive. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
That's exactly correct. And I want to share this before I forget. My son, Michael, has roasted me. I've been the victim of unkind remarks because I bought a 12-by-8 shed. And in my mind's eye, I could see it fitting very easily in my backyard. And if you come straight back from my driveway into my backyard, I have a fence and then I have the house. And I thought the space between the house and the fence was easily 8 feet. Well, that was quite the adventure. We got that shed back there with about a half an inch on each side, but that was memorable. So my family does tease me about not measuring, so I appreciate that. We've got to check in with our Jester Master now, and she is indeed Beth Banks. We're back, Beth. Tell us about those gestures.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. There were some very good facial expressions from both of our speakers. I would recommend to Sylvia, the same as her evaluator, that maybe she steps back a little so that we can see more gestures, because her facial expressions were good, but I didn't see a lot of hand movement. She did use way up there, and that was good. but I would like to see a little bit more of that from her. Ryan, one thing that Ryan does is he has learned very effectively the use of Zoom for expressions. I don't think it would have been as effective at Tom's Diner. His motion for views narrowed, it was so effective in Zoom, but I'm not sure it would have been as effective in Tom's Diners. That was a very good use of hands there, Ryan. I liked it, and I liked his distance back. I think we all are still learning this Zoom, so we all have to do that a little bit better. Towards the end, I do have a remodeling story I can share at the end. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All righty. You want to share it now? Don't be shy. Step right up.
Okay.
I didn't, Beth.
Yes.
Beth, out of respect to the Banks family, I didn't mention the kitchen designer that helped us. A little inside joke between me, Beth, and Katie, or Katie, Beth, and I. Excuse me. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. We are in the middle of doing some upkeep in our home now. We've been here 30 years, and we needed to work on some things. As a matter of fact, we had Wally do quite a bit of our upkeep on this house. But I have a funny story, strange, about a house that we sold right before this house. Big house on McClue Road, a big older home built in 1905. It requires a lot of upkeep. The people who bought it after us did not really understand that, I think, at all. When they moved, they sold it, or that it was for sale. They did not take our advice on making sure that they did not turn the furnace down too low. So therefore, they froze the pipes because it was in the winter. And I was told by some of the volunteer firemen in the area, you have to go over and see the house. They basically did more damage to the home than probably the home was worth. When we went in, it was sad how much damage they had done. They had the old-fashioned radiators. It was down so low, the water got so cold that it literally burst holes in the radiators. The water then, of course, poured out. The basement ended up filling 3 feet with water, turned off the furnace entirely. All the wallpaper downstairs was wrinkly and needed to be taken off. The pocket doors were swollen inside the pockets. So that was, I don't even know how they could fix that. It had beautiful parquet hardwood floors, and they were literally in an upside down V all throughout the downstairs where they were. So it was definitely a case of them not thinking far enough ahead to make sure the upkeep on this beautiful home was done while they were trying to sell it. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Beth. And seeing how you went 5 to 7 minutes on this story, I will evaluate you now.
Okay.
Instead of upside down V, you could have used the term washboard floor.
Washboard floor. Okay.
But that's the only advice I have to give. All right.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you've all been paying attention, because we have a very strict quiz master this morning. Even though she has this lovely exterior, I know she's strict. Tracy Farrell with the quiz. Go ahead, Trace.
Thank you, Dave. I just want to remind everybody the purpose of the Quizmaster is to help us upkeep our listening skills. So we're going to test you and find out. The first question is, where in the world is Larry Eggert today?
Eggert Road.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Second question, Where was Charlie Deacon's house when he had to do some major upkeep?
It was right here in Lockport.
Where?
Very good. I knew you'd get these, Dave. So, Chris, what color did Chris's father paint the hallway to correct that vibrant red?
Bright red.
It was salmon. He
Corrected,
went with
pale
salmon.
yellow?
It was salmon. It was
Salmon.
salmon color.
Yes.
And finally, what position did Sylvia Baptiste start in when she began her career at the YWCA?
Receptionist.
Receptionist.
Very good.
Front desk.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so
I'll
much
pass.
for that quiz. We learned, thank you, Beth Bank, for reinforcing how important upkeep is on a home. There, I snuck it in one more time.
There you
Our
go.
word master, Thomas, give us this long, beautiful recounting of who indeed used the word of the day.
Well, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. The word started off fairly good. You used it at the beginning of the meeting and you ended with it. Sam used it. Our table topics people used it. And I'd like to point out Moklis not only used it twice in his evaluation, he also put it in the chat. So if you're monitoring the chat, he actually used it there as well, which I thought was nice. I heard it from Marty. I heard Tracy use it. And Beth got it in there 4 times during her story. I don't know if that was intentional, but that was a nice way to spend the meeting with upkeep. And I want to give a little story about upkeep. I thought I was ready for my current position at the VA doing maintenance and upkeep on the building on Bailey Avenue, over 1 million square feet. And it's in disrepair. The VA in Buffalo decided in the 80s when there were cutbacks in finances and budgets that they would keep the medical support and medical care and doctors and everything at the same level. However, where were they going to cut money? Well, they cut the money from maintenance and engineering. So for about 15 to 20 years, almost up until about early 2000s, the only money they spent was on paint and patching. They didn't put any new equipment in. They didn't put any new piping in, no work on electrical. And so we're finding that it's a adventure with the projects we're doing now. I believe we had someone mention last year that we had $120 million in projects on the board. Now it's up to 145. They took some money for COVID, but they put the parking garage on the expansion of the parking garage on hold for COVID, the COVID money. But otherwise, we're repairing everything, starting with the basics of plumbing, electrical, generator backup power, hot and cold water, heat, HVAC, humidity controls, and infection control equipment. So that's my big story. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster Dave.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Buenos dias, Julio. How are you this morning? And I'd like to thank you for taking a game try at Table Topics, even though you came in so cold. You did an admirable job, and you showed us how to, take a chance. Julio, how did you enjoy the meeting this morning?
Well, for me, thank you. Thank you, Toastmaster. For me, it's important to come here and share my experience about how I can improve this feeling to be here with you guys, and also to learn from you all those experiences. I want to say thank you to everyone, Eric, David, Jennifer, all of you, because it's good to start learning all of these leadership skills and communication. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for visiting us. Please visit us anytime you wish. It's great hearing from you. And you get extra kudos because of time zones. You really got up early, and we appreciate that. And now we want to switch to the man who has the luxury of being, in the early evening. Chris, wait, before I ask Chris how he enjoyed the meeting, Margot, can you tell me again what year your first home was built?
1843.
And you know what Chris's response was? Old? You call that old? That's not old. Chris, I want to ask Chris, I went to Somerset, England, and I believe that the oldest street in Europe, is that in Somerset, or is my memory faulty after nearly 50 years, 49 years ago? Chris.
Well, David, you probably know more on it than I do, which is I grew up really close to Somerset, so I probably should know that, but shamefully I don't. So I'm going to have to get the Googler out, look it up. But yeah, what a fantastic meeting. Thank you very much, everybody, for the warm welcome and for your generous hospitality. I crossed paths with Eric at a club in Texas a couple of nights ago, and a lot of other people there were exchanging details about their own clubs. And right now, during the pandemic, I'm taking advantage of the free time that I have, and I'm zooming all over America and other parts of the world and experiencing Toastmasters across the world. I am a member of Toastmasters. I've been a member of Toastmasters for 6 years, and I'm a member of 2 clubs. In fact, I'm going to be Toastmaster in about 5 hours' time, so I've definitely got a busy day ahead of me. I'm self-proclaimed Toastmasters addict, but what a wonderful club. Thank you so much. And as a token of my gratitude, you are all warmly invited to join us in London in a few hours' time, if you would like to. And if you'll have me back, I would love to return. Thank you, everybody.
Chris, thank you so much. And I did make great friends with a chap from Cardiff. He lived in our neighborhood there in Camden, and I'm still in touch with him 49 years later. But he met a girl from New Zealand, and he departed for New Zealand, so he's way down under now. But I want to share with you what he told me, because he's very clever about maintaining his friendships and maintaining his connections, because he always had an exchange student in his house in New Zealand. So I promise you that this fella has been around the world twice. And he told me that Niagara Falls is the only tourist attraction that lives up to the hype. So we're looking forward to your visit, Chris. And thank you so much for coming in this morning, and good luck with your duties this afternoon. Now, I am going to call on, I need to know who won the contest, but our best table topic speaker, our best evaluator, and our best speaker. Can somebody supply me with that information?
Larry?
I would guess Larry McKenzie. Larry?
No, Dave.
Well, Mr. Licata, I actually sent that information over to our president, but to piggyback on what you were saying, Vickers Close in Wells, Somerset, England, is claimed to be the oldest residential street with original buildings surviving intact in Europe, and it was from the 14th century. I'll turn it back.
I walked down that street. I am one lucky, well-traveled SOB.
Yes. And now,
okay, take it
President
away.
Eric.
President Eric, go ahead, Eric.
Look out for Dave's new book, Guide to England or Anywhere Else. All right, and Dave, I'm serious, write a book. Our best table topic speaker this morning is our guest all the way out from England, Chris. Congratulations, Chris.
Yay!
Thank you.
Our best evaluator is Dr. Moklas Rahman. Congratulations, Moklas. And our best speaker today is Ryan Flory. Congratulations to Ryan. Any final announcements before we adjourn the meeting today?
I want to hear about the background of Larry McKenzie. Is that the Erie Canal place?
That is lock 34 and lock 35. You'll see the 35 is right there. And right here is the original lock, which they've been restoring. And let me turn this way. There is the lock 35. And right over here is Tom's Diner. That is where we normally have our meeting. And if we ever perhaps go back there, that could be where we're meeting again in the future.
All right. Oh, and I do have a quick quiz. What background did I have on my screen just a few minutes ago pertaining to the theme today? And Mokos has it on his as well.
Home improvement, Tim Allen.
Yes.
With a hammer.
Very good.
With the hammer, yes.
And speaking of hammer, you can grab a gavel anytime you wish.
I knew you were going to say that, Dave.
Before you do that, though, Mr. Eric.
Go ahead, Larry.
Next week, Jen Zapla will be our Toastmaster of the week. I will not be in attendance, so Len will be your tech guru for the week. So,
Ben, do you have a theme for the open house next week?
I do. Your theme will be Toastmasters zombie survival skills.
Oh, this should be interesting. I love it.
Oh, that's perfect for Halloween. Thank you.
I might have to drive and find Wi-Fi.
Definitely drive and find Wi-Fi. Be sure to tune in. I will send out the agenda for all of you to confirm your roles. And Eric is hopefully going to be sending us some sort of material to share and invite people to our open house as soon as possible. Thank you.
Ryan?
I'm on that.
All right, Ryan. All right. Very good.
Ryan, if you could share that with me too, then I'll put it on the online ones that I'm on that Eric might not be.
Don't be shy. Next week is every week is guest week, but next week is even a bigger guest week. Don't be shy. Bring those guests in.
Yes, Chris and Julio, you're more than welcome. What?
There's Time's Diner.
All right. Fellow Toastmasters, guys, thank you so much for a wonderful meeting. Stick around for post Toasties and social hour tonight, 7 p.m. Larry will put that in the chat. Guys, have a good weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Dave.
Oh boy, that's a nice shot, Lenny. That's a nice photo. That came out great.
Yeah, Larry took this for me. This is after they reopened. See the plexiglass there between the booths?
Yeah. I wonder. Well, just another challenge to our speaking skills. We'll have to learn to project our voices around the plexiglass as our voices go from booth to booth to booth to booth.